The cargo ship, Zephyr's Dream, drifted silently through the asteroid field, its hull scarred from countless mining operations. Captain Marcus Chen sat in the pilot's seat, watching the scanner display flicker with detected mineral deposits. Another routine job in the outer rim, another month away from Earth. The attack came without warning. Plasma bolts erupted from behind a massive asteroid, striking the ship's engines with surgical precision. The Zephyr's Dream shuddered violently as its power core fluctuated. Marcus gripped the controls, trying to maneuver, but more shots disabled the navigation thrusters. "This is Captain Chen of the mining vessel Zephyr's Dream," he transmitted on all frequencies. "We are unarmed and carrying only mineral ore. State your intentions." The response came in heavily accented galactic standard. "Human vessel, you will submit to boarding. Any resistance will result in termination." Marcus cursed under his breath. Pirates, most likely. The outer rim was crawling with them these days. He glanced at the emergency beacon, but knew help wouldn't arrive for days, if at all. The mining routes were barely patrolled. The pirate's ship emerged from behind the asteroid, a sleek Vorthak raider painted in deep red with tribal markings along its hull. Marcus recognized the design. The Vorthak were known for their ruthlessness and their particular hatred of humans. Something about humans expanding too quickly into their territory. Magnetic clamps locked onto the Zephyr's Dream with metallic groans. Marcus heard the cutting torches beginning their work on the airlock. He had perhaps 3 minutes before they broke through. He moved quickly to his personal locker, pulling out a small data pad and wiping its memory. Standard protocol. Never let pirates access shipping records or personal information. As footsteps echoed through the breached airlock, Marcus sat back down and raised his hands. 6 Vorthak warriors entered the bridge, their reptilian features twisted with satisfaction. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their scales a mottled green-brown that seemed to shift in the dim lighting. Their leader, distinguished by golden bands around his arms, approached Marcus with predatory grace. "You are the only crew member?" the leader asked, his voice a low hiss. "Just me," Marcus replied calmly. "Like I said, we're a mining vessel. No weapons, no military cargo." The leader studied him with amber eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. "Your species always lies. We will search your ship thoroughly." He gestured to his warriors, who immediately dispersed throughout the vessel. Minutes passed in tense silence. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced through possible escape scenarios. None looked promising. The Vorthak were experienced raiders, and his ship was completely disabled. The warriors returned, reporting in their clicking native language. The leader's expression grew more interested as he listened to their findings. "Curious," the leader said, switching back to galactic standard. "Your ship carries mining equipment, as you claim, but it also carries military-grade communication arrays and encrypted data cores, most unusual for a simple mining vessel." Marcus shrugged. "Company regulations. They want real-time ore composition reports and secure communication with the Home Office, corporate bureaucracy at its finest." Perhaps. The leader's tail swished behind him, a sign Marcus recognized as either agitation or anticipation among Vorthak. "You will come aboard our ship. Your vessel will be salvaged." 2 warriors grabbed Marcus by the arms, their claws pricking through his jumpsuit. He didn't resist as they dragged him through the airlock and into their raider. The interior was all sharp angles and dark metal designed to intimidate captives. They threw him into a small holding cell, barely large enough for a human to stand upright. The bars were energy fields rather than physical metal, escape-proof for most species. Marcus sat on the narrow bench and waited. Hours passed before the cell door deactivated. The leader entered, now wearing ceremonial armor adorned with what looked like bone fragments. 2 guards flanked him, weapons ready. "I am War Chief Thok of the Bloodfang clan," the leader announced. "You are now property of the Vorthak Confederacy. You will be questioned, and then you will be sold to the mining guilds of Kepler Station. Consider this merciful. Most humans who enter our territory simply disappear." Marcus met his gaze steadily. "I appreciate the mercy." Thok's eyes narrowed. "You show no fear. Most humans beg or offer bribes by now." "Fear doesn't change the situation," Marcus replied. "You've made your decision. I'll deal with whatever comes." "Interesting." Thok circled the small cell like a predator studying prey. "Tell me, human, what is your name?" "For our records." Marcus hesitated for just a moment, so brief that most species wouldn't have noticed. But the Vorthak were hunters, trained to catch the smallest signs of deception or hidden truths. "The name," Thok repeated, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "What do they call you?" Marcus looked up at War Chief Thok, weighing his options. False names were common among spacers, but the Vorthak had ways of verifying identity through genetic scanners and database checks. Better to tell the truth and hope they didn't recognize it. "Chen," he said finally. "Marcus Chen." Thok waited, clearly expecting more. When none came, his tail lashed with irritation. "Full designation, human. Military rank, corporate position, whatever pathetic title your kind assigns." Marcus sighed. There was no point in hiding it now. "Former Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen, Earth Defense Force, retired. Currently employed as an independent mining contractor." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Thok's amber eyes widened slightly, and his guards shifted nervously. Earth Defense Force veterans were known throughout the galaxy, though not always for pleasant reasons. "Earth Defense Force," Thok repeated slowly. "Which campaigns?" "Does it matter?" Marcus asked. "I'm retired. I mine asteroids for a living now." "It matters very much." Thok's voice carried a new edge of respect mixed with wariness. "The Confederacy keeps detailed records of human military personnel. Some names carry significance." One of the guards whispered something in the Vorthak language. Marcus caught a few words. His knowledge of their tongue was limited, but he recognized terms like records check and central database. Thok nodded and activated a communication device on his wrist. He spoke rapidly in his native language, then switched to Galactic Standard. "Run a full identity verification on human prisoner designation Marcus Chen, former Earth Defense Force, Priority Alpha." The response came within minutes, crackling through the comm system in heavily accented Galactic Standard. "War Chief Thok, identity confirmed. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen, EDF serial number 7749 Delta. Combat record indicates participation in the Kepler Defense, the Arcturus campaign, and..." There was a long pause. "War Chief, are you certain of this identification?" "Confirmed. What else?" Another pause. "Sir, this individual was awarded the Terran Star of Valor and the Galactic Cross for actions during the siege of Proxima Station. His operational call sign was..." The voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The Reaper." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Both guards took a step backward, their weapons lowering slightly. Thok's expression shifted from confident predator to something approaching concern. Even the communications operator seemed reluctant to continue. "The Reaper," Thok repeated, his voice barely audible. "You are certain?" "Positive identification confirmed, War Chief. Marcus Chen, also known as the Reaper. Single-handedly held Docking Bay 7 at Proxima for 16 hours against 3 full battalions of hegemony shock troops. Casualty count..." There was another pause. "Sir, perhaps this conversation should be encrypted?" "No need," Thok said, his eyes never leaving Marcus. "Continue." 243 confirmed kills during the siege, no prisoners taken. The bay was later found filled with enemy bodies stacked like cordwood. The survivors reported that he never stopped moving, never stopped killing, even when wounded. They called him unstoppable. Marcus remained silent, watching the fear grow in his captor's eyes. The Vorthak were warriors themselves, respected throughout the galaxy for their combat prowess, but even they had heard the stories from Proxima Station. "There is more, War Chief," the voice continued. "During the Arcturus campaign, his unit was wiped out in an ambush. He was presumed dead for 6 days. When rescue forces finally reached the location, they found him alone, surrounded by over 100 enemy dead. He had survived by creative means." Thok's tail had gone completely still, a sign of deep thought among his species. "What kind of creative means?" "The report is classified, but witnesses described improvised weapons, booby traps, and psychological warfare tactics that left the surviving enemy forces too traumatized to continue fighting. Some refused to enter any building where humans might be present. The enemy commander formally requested transfer to a different sector rather than face the Reaper again. One of the guards whispered something that sounded like a prayer in the Vorthak language. Marcus recognized the tone, if not the words. He had heard similar prayers from enemies before. "War Chief," the communications operator continued, "there are 17 documented incidents where entire enemy units have surrendered upon learning the Reaper was in the operational area. The hegemony placed a bounty of 50,000 credits on his head, dead or alive." 50,000? Thok's voice cracked slightly. "Sir, that was 15 years ago. Current bounty is estimated at over 2 million credits. The hegemony still considers him their most wanted human." Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. "That was a long time ago, War Chief. I'm just a miner now." But his words seemed to have the opposite effect. Thok backed toward the cell entrance, his warriors flanking him like bodyguards rather than guards. "A man does not simply stop being what he is," Thok said carefully. "The stories say you disappeared after the war. Some claimed you were dead. Others said you had gone into deep space, beyond the rim." "I wanted a quiet life," Marcus said. "Mining rocks seemed peaceful enough." Peaceful. Thok's laugh held no humor. "The Reaper, mining asteroids in the outer rim, like finding a sleeping dragon in a flower garden." The communication device crackled again. "War Chief, command requests immediate status update. Are you currently holding the Reaper as prisoner?" Thok stared at Marcus for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the implications. A high-value prisoner could bring enormous prestige to his clan. But some prizes came with costs too high to pay. "Stand by," Thok finally responded. He gestured for his guards to follow him out of the cell area. Their voices could be heard in heated discussion down the corridor, speaking rapidly in their native tongue. Marcus caught fragments, words like dangerous, value, and what sounded like death wish. When they returned 10 minutes later, Thok's expression was grim but determined. "The Reaper," he said formally. "You will answer questions about human military capabilities and current defensive positions. In exchange, your death will be quick and honorable." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's your offer? Information for a clean death?" "It is more than most receive, and more than you deserve, considering what you did to my cousin's clan on Kepler." "I don't remember fighting any Vorthak on Kepler." "Not fighting," Thok's voice turned cold. "You were hired to negotiate a mining contract. The entire clan leadership died in what was officially reported as food poisoning." Marcus shrugged. "I don't negotiate. I just mine now." The conversation was interrupted by urgent chatter from the ship's bridge. A warrior rushed into the cell area, speaking rapidly in the Vorthak tongue. Thok's expression darkened with each word. "What is it?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. "It seems your mining vessel was broadcasting a distress beacon on encrypted frequencies," Thok said slowly. Frequencies used only by Earth Defense Force veterans. Marcus kept his face neutral. Standard emergency protocol. All civilian contractors carry them. This particular signal has been answered, Thok continued. 3 ships have dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of this system. They are requesting communication. The war chief activated his wrist communicator. Bridge, identify the responding vessels. The reply came immediately. Sir, lead vessel identifies as the merchant freighter, Lucky Strike, Captain Sarah Martinez commanding. The other 2 claim to be independent mining ships, Rust Bucket and Iron Horse. Thok's amber eyes narrowed. Merchant vessels do not typically travel in formation, nor do they respond to distress calls in disputed territory. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Maybe they're just good Samaritans. Run full sensor sweeps on all 3 vessels, Thok ordered. Full spectrum analysis. Minutes passed in tense silence. When the report came back, the fear that had been growing in the Vorthak guard's eyes became pure terror. War Chief! The bridge operator's voice was barely steady. The merchant vessel shows extensive hull modifications consistent with concealed weapon systems. Power signatures suggest military-grade fusion reactors. The mining ships are displaying similar anomalies. Furthermore, the voice continued, we are detecting additional vessels on long-range sensors. At least 6 more ships are approaching from different vectors. All show signs of military modification despite civilian registration. Thok looked at Marcus with a mixture of awe and growing dread. You called for help. I didn't call anyone, Marcus said truthfully, but old soldiers tend to keep in touch. When one of us sends a distress call, others listen. The communication system crackled to life with an incoming transmission. Vorthak vessel. This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the Lucky Strike. We're responding to a distress call from one of our people. We'd like him back, please. The woman's voice was polite, but carried an undertone of steel that made the guards shift nervously. Marcus recognized the tone. It was the same voice officers used when ordering a final assault. Thok activated the communication system. This is War Chief Thok of the Blood Fang clan. We have salvage rights to the disabled vessel and its crew under Confederacy law. I'm afraid that's not going to work for us, Martinez replied calmly. You see, the gentleman you're holding isn't just any miner. He's family. Family? Thok glanced at Marcus questioningly. Marcus shrugged. We all served together at one point or another. Military bonds run deep. Another voice joined the communication, gruff, male, with the distinct accent of the outer colonies. Thok, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Iron Horse. I was Marcus's platoon sergeant during the Arcturus campaign. I saw what he did to 3 divisions of enemy troops with nothing but a knife and a lot of creativity. You really want to make him angry? A third voice chimed in, this one younger but no less threatening. Blood Fang clan, this is Lieutenant Chen. Yes, that Chen, commanding the Rust Bucket. The Reaper is my father. I strongly suggest you return him immediately. Thok's tail went rigid. Your father? Adopted, Marcus clarified. I pulled her out of a combat zone when she was 12, raised her after her parents died in the war. And trained her, came Lieutenant Chen's voice over the comm. Trained her very well. The bridge operator's voice cut through the tension. War Chief, we now have 12 vessels on approach. 3 more just dropped out of hyperspace. All show military modifications. Thok began pacing the small cell area like a caged predator. This is impossible. You're a miner. You said you wanted a quiet life. I do, Marcus said, but apparently my past won't let me have one. You should know. Some bonds can't be broken by time or distance. Sir, came the bridge operator again. The lead vessels are requesting permission to dock and retrieve their person. They're being very polite about it. How polite? Thok asked suspiciously. They've offered to pay for any damages to our ship and provide compensation for our time. They've also mentioned that they have no quarrel with the Bloodfang clan and would prefer to keep it that way. Marcus nodded approvingly. Sarah always was diplomatic. However, the operator continued, they have also informed us that they are carrying enough firepower to turn our ship into scrap metal if we refuse. They've provided detailed targeting solutions for our engines, weapons, and life support systems as proof of their capabilities. They what? Thok's voice rose to almost a shriek. They've essentially told us exactly how they would destroy us, down to the specific weapon systems they would use and the order they would target our vital systems. It was presented as a technical demonstration rather than a threat. Marcus chuckled. That sounds like Sarah. She always preferred showing her work. Thok stopped pacing and stared at Marcus. How many? How many veterans are out there? In this sector? Marcus considered the question. Maybe 50 or 60 that I know personally, but word travels fast among old soldiers. By tomorrow, there could be hundreds. The bridge reports 15 vessels now, one of the guards whispered to Thok. More arriving every hour. This is madness, Thok muttered. The stories never mentioned that the Reaper had an entire army at his disposal. I don't, Marcus said. I have friends, people who remember what we went through together, people who know that when one of us is in trouble, all of us are in trouble. The communication system activated again, this time with a new voice, older, authoritative, carrying the unmistakable command presence of a senior officer. War Chief Thok, this is Admiral Patricia Hendricks, retired, commanding the task force that has assembled to retrieve our colleague. I'm going to make this very simple for you. Even Thok seemed to recognize the voice of authority. Admiral, you have two choices, War Chief. You can return Commander Chen to us immediately, along with our apologies for this misunderstanding, and we'll all go our separate ways. Or, the pause stretched for long seconds. Or we can show you why the galaxy still fears the name the Reaper, and why they should fear the names of everyone who served with him. Your choice, War Chief, but choose quickly. My people are getting impatient, and some of them have less diplomatic experience than I do. Thok looked around at his warriors, seeing the same expression on all their faces, the look of predators who had suddenly realized they were the prey. War Chief Thok stood frozen in the corridor, his amber eyes darting between his terrified warriors and the calm human sitting in the energy cell. The communication system crackled with periodic updates from his bridge crew, each report adding another ship to the growing fleet assembling outside. 18 vessels now, War Chief, came the latest update. They're maintaining formation at the edge of weapons range, but sensors indicate they have us completely surrounded. Marcus watched Thok's internal struggle with professional interest. The Vorthak were proud warriors, but they weren't stupid. Suicide was one thing. Pointless suicide was another entirely. War Chief, Marcus said quietly, your crew doesn't need to die for this. Let me talk to my people. Your people? Thok's voice cracked slightly. These are retired humans, civilians, miners and merchants. Once a soldier, always a soldier, Marcus replied. You can take the warrior out of the war, but you can't take the war out of the warrior. We carry it with us. Thok activated his communicator with visible reluctance. Bridge, open a channel to the human fleet. This is Admiral Hendricks, came the immediate response. Have you reached a decision, War Chief? I would speak with the Reaper first, Thok said. Marcus? Hendricks's voice softened slightly. You okay down there? I'm fine, Patricia. Just having a conversation with our hosts about the finer points of hospitality. Good to hear your voice, old friend. The gang's all here. Sarah, Jake, even young Amy from the Rust Bucket. Hell, even grumpy old Peterson crawled out of retirement on Kepler Station. Marcus smiled genuinely for the first time since his capture. Pete's here? I thought he was dead. Just wishful thinking on his part. So, what's the situation? Are we negotiating, or are we having a more direct conversation? Thok stepped closer to the cell, his earlier confidence completely gone. The Reaper will be released immediately. There will be no direct conversation. Glad to hear it, Hendricks replied. We'll have a shuttle ready for pickup in 10 minutes. Wait, Thok said suddenly. I must know. How did you organize this so quickly? My intelligence reports suggested most human veterans were scattered across the galaxy. There was a chuckle from the comm system, not from Hendricks, but from one of the other ship captains. War Chief, this is Captain Morrison. You want to know about human organization? We've got a network that spans half the galaxy. When one of us sends a distress call, every veteran within jump range gets the message within hours. It's called the Underground Railroad, another voice added. Named after an old Earth tradition, we take care of our own. Marcus nodded toward Thok. We learned something during the war that most species never figure out. Individual strength is limited, but collective strength can move mountains. When you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. But why? Thok asked, genuine curiosity overriding his fear. You are no longer military. You owe each other nothing. We owe each other everything, Marcus said simply. We bled together, fought together, watched each other's backs when the whole galaxy wanted us dead. That creates bonds that don't break just because the shooting stops. The energy field of his cell suddenly deactivated. Thok stepped back as Marcus stood and stretched muscles cramped from hours of confinement. Your weapons and personal effects have been returned to your ship, Thok said formally. The repairs to your engines will be completed within the hour. Generous of you, Marcus said without sarcasm, but unnecessary. I'll be transferring to one of the other ships. The Lucky Strike will be fine, came Admiral Hendricks's voice. Sarah's got a decent medical bay and better coffee than that mining bucket you were flying. As they made their way toward the docking bay, Thok walked beside Marcus, his warriors following at a respectful distance. The contrast was striking. An hour ago, they had been his captors. Now they moved like an honor guard. I have one more question, Thok said as they reached the airlock. The stories about you? Are they true? All of them? Marcus paused, considering. War stories grow in the telling, War Chief, but the important parts are usually true. And the important parts are? That we never left anyone behind, that we never gave up, and that we never forgot who stood with us when it mattered. The airlock cycled open to reveal a small shuttle bearing the markings of the Lucky Strike. A woman in her 50s stepped out, Admiral Patricia Hendricks, still carrying herself with military bearing despite retirement. Behind her came two other figures Marcus recognized immediately. Marcus! Amy Chen launched herself at him with an enthusiasm that would have been unprofessional in her military days. He caught her in a bear hug, noting that she'd grown into the confident officer he'd always known she could be. Hello, daughter, he said simply. Jake Morrison approached more sedately, but his weathered face split into a grin. Damn good to see you, Commander. When we heard Vorthak pirates had grabbed you, half of us were ready to glass this whole system. Only half, Marcus asked with mock disappointment. The other half wanted to glass it twice, Patricia said, just to be sure. As they boarded the shuttle, Thok called out from the airlock. Reaper! Marcus turned back. The Bloodfang clan will remember this day. Your people showed honor in victory. They showed restraint, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Perhaps that is why your species has spread so far across the galaxy, Thok said thoughtfully. You are fierce in war, but you remember mercy in peace. The shuttle bay of the Lucky Strike was filled with familiar faces, dozens of veterans from campaigns across the galaxy, all who had dropped everything and traveled through dangerous space because one of their own had sent a distress call. As the shuttle lifted away from the Vorthak raider, Marcus looked back at the small fleet that had assembled for his rescue. 18 ships crewed by men and women who had faced impossible odds and survived, who had found new lives in the peace they had fought to create, but who would always answer the call when one of their own was in danger. "So," Sarah Martinez said from the pilot's seat, "ready to get back to mining asteroids in peace?" Marcus chuckled and settled back in his seat, surrounded by the people who mattered most to him in the galaxy. "Patricia, remind me to update my emergency beacon. Next time I want a quiet rescue." "Next time," the Admiral replied. "Maybe don't get captured by pirates who keep military databases." "Where's the fun in that?" As the fleet dispersed back to their various destinations across the galaxy, each ship carrying veterans back to their chosen lives, the legend of the Reaper grew once more. But this time, it wasn't about the lone human warrior who could hold a position against impossible odds. This time, it was about the network of warriors who would cross the galaxy for a friend. The Vorthak would tell this story for generations, not just about the human they captured, but about the family that came to bring him home. And in the depths of space, miners and merchants and retired soldiers continued their peaceful lives, secure in the knowledge that they were never truly alone.